All right, let's get started. First, we have 2% of means times 3 plus 2 is 5, and 3% times 2 plus 3 is 5. We can already stop here and say the answer is B. 3% of 5 is going to be larger than 2% of 5. Next one here, 6 sevenths minus 5 sixths, 5 sixths minus 6 sevenths. If we know our fraction, 6 over 7 is going to be greater than 5 over 6. So this will be a positive number. And 5 sixths minus 6 sevenths is going to be a negative number because 6 sevenths is larger than 5 sixths. If you're not sure about that, when you look at it, you can give them a common denominator. 7 times 6 is 42. And so this will be 36 minus 35. And this will also be over 42. And we're going to have 35 minus 36. And so again, this will be negative, this will be positive, and so the answer is A. Next here we have 2y minus x equals 11 and x minus 2 equals 5. Let's clean this up and we add 2 to both sides and we get x equals 7. Plug that in here. 2y minus 7 equals 11. Add 7 to both sides. 2y equals 18. And then we have y equals 9. So we have 7 and 9, so the larger one is B. The remainder when 48 is divided by 5, let's do that. 48 over 5. If we do that, it's going to be equal to 9 remainder 3. The remainder when 48 is divided by 7. 48 is almost 49, which means it's almost going to be 7, but it's actually going to be 6. And 6 times 7 is 42, so remainder 6. And they're asking for the remainder. The larger remainder is B. X times y equals 0 and x equals 0. Well, we know if something times 0 equals 0, y could be anything. So if we have 0 times y equals 0, y could be positive, negative, anything. It could also be 0. So we don't know the answer, the value here. Number 6, the square root of 38 plus the square root of 45, and we're comparing that to 12. We could calculate these more precisely with a calculator, but let's see if we can skip that. The square root of 38 is very close to the square root of 36, which would be 6. The square root of 45 is very close to the square root of 49, which is 7. 6 plus 7 is 13. That's going to be greater than 12, so the answer is A. Number 7. We have some lines here. We're going to have some vertical angles here. M equals Q, T equals 50, and then we're comparing Q plus R to S. Let's fill out what we know already. So we have T equals 50, and because of vertical angles, that means that Q is also equal to 50. And they said Q is equal to M, which means that this is also 50. And if M is 50, then the vertical angle to that is R, which is also 50. And then we know this baseline here, this entire set of 3 angles here, here, and here has to add up to 180, and this is already 100, so we've got 80. And so now we can check this. Q plus R, well, that's 100, and then S is 80, and so the answer is A. Number 8. We're comparing two expressions here. First, we want to see if there's any way we can simplify them to turn them into something we can easily compare. And if we notice here, if we distribute out of 2, basically divide everything by 2, then this becomes x plus 2y over 2. And so they're going to be the same. C. Number 9. PR is the diameter of the circle and QR is a tangent to the circle. So the length of PR, so that's this diameter here, and then the length of QR, the tangent. We actually don't have enough information to get this. So we don't know what the length of QR is, and so the answer is D. The toll for a certain bridge is 15 cents for 1 token. Tokens are sold in packs of 40 for $4. The percent saved on 40 trips across the bridge if a token, rather than 15 cents, is used to pay each toll, or 66 2/3%. So let's figure out what percent change we have there. So 40 trips here, let's do 40 times 10%. That's going to be $4. And then 5% here is going to be half of this. So that's going to be $2. And so the total is going to be $6. And they're asking us for the percent saved. It's going to be 6 minus 4 over 4, so it's going to be 50%, which is less than 66 2/3%. Number 11, we are comparing the area of the rectangular plot A and the area of the rectangular plot B. So we have two expressions here for the sides, and we have different expressions here. One thing we could do is just multiply these out, distribute them, FOIL them. And if you know how to do that quickly, you can get n squared plus 4n plus 4. And then when we do that here, we get n squared plus 4n plus 3. And then if we compare these, it's pretty easy to tell that column A is going to be greater. One other option we have is we could just plug in numbers. Let's make n1. This becomes a 3. 3, so that's an area of 9. And then if we plug in 1 here, we have 4. And this is 2. And so that's an area of 8. And again, column A is going to be greater. Number 12. The average arithmetic mean cost per cassette for 18 cassettes costing a total of $2x. Now if we pay attention to this, cost per cassette, that means we want the cost in the numerator per and then the cassette number in the denominator, which means we're going to have 2x over 18. And when we simplify, we're going to divide both of these by 2, and we're going to get x over 9. The average arithmetic mean cost per cassette for 3 cassettes costing a total of x over $3. That means we have a set of 3 that cost x over $3, which means we need to multiply it by 1/3 to get the cost per cassette, which gives us x over 9, and so these are equal values. Number 13, square QRST has a perimeter of P. So one way to look at this is that means that each side is P over 4. And they want to know x squared plus y squared versus P squared over 16. Well, we know from the Pythagorean theorem, since we have a right triangle here, we can set up an expression that compares these two. So x squared plus y squared is going to equal this. X squared plus y squared is going to equal P over 4 squared. And if we look at that, x squared plus y squared is right here, and this becomes P squared over 16, which means the values are going to be the same, so we're going to choose C. Number 14. N is an integer, and it's between 0 and 3. Well, there are only two integers between 0 and 3, 1 and 2. And since this is pretty complex, we're just going to plug these numbers in. So our first one here, we have 1 over 1 plus 1 to the power of 1, which gives us 2 to the power of 1. So in this case, column B is slightly larger. Now let's try 2. Here we have 1/2 plus 1 to the power of 2. This is going to give us 3/2 squared, which comes out to 9 over 4. And then this is 2 1/8. So what we can do is take this from a mixed fraction to an improper one. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17, so this is 17 over 8. And to make this into eighths, we're just going to multiply the top and the bottom both by 2, and we get 18 over 8. And so now column A is greater. And if it's inconsistent, column A is greater sometimes and column B is greater sometimes, then the answer is D. Next, number 15, we have two figures here, a triangle and a square. One thing we can know is that the exterior angles of any polygon always add up to 360. And since there are 4 here, that would be 360 over 4, which would give us 90. So these are all 90 degrees. And with a triangle, that's 360 over 3, which gives us 120. So each of these is 120 degrees, and so x is 120 minus 90, which gives us 30. And then x plus y is 120 plus 90 over 7. And 120 plus 90 is 210. 210 over 7 simplifies down to 30, and so the answer choice is C. The quantities are equal. Number 16. If 8,750 pairs of shoes are represented in the pictograph above, how many pairs of shoes does each shoe represent? Well, let's count the number of shoes. We have 4 across and 3 down, so we have 12, plus this one, 12 and a half. And so since these values are all pretty far apart, we can probably estimate our way here. So what we can do is, with 8,750 pairs and 12.5, let's round that to 9,013. And so we think which ones of these will multiply times 13 to get us into 9,000. And if we do, let's try 700, we do 7 times 13. And that gives us 9,100. And that's pretty close. So one thing we can do to check that, because it might be 700, it might be 730, is let's just count by 700s and see how far we get. So we know we have 12 and a half 700s. Let's check that. So 7 times 12 gives us 84. So we're looking at 8,400 plus another half. Half of 700 is 350. And we get 8,750. Again, if you want to use your calculator, you can just do 8,750. Divide by 12.5, and you'll get the right answer there, B. Number 17, if x equals 3 and y equals negative 3, what's the value of 3 plus x times 3 minus y? So let's plug this in. So we get 3 here, so that's 6. And then 3 minus negative 3, remember to distribute that negative, so that's also a 6, a positive 6, and so we get 6 times 6 is 36, E. Number 18. 6 squared minus 4 squared over 2 squared. The easiest way to do this is just to figure out what these are. 36 minus 16 over 4, and then simplify. 36 over 4 is 9, and 16 over 4 is 4, so we get 9 minus 4, and that gives us 5. Number 19, if the area of a circle is 25 pi, then the diameter of the circle is... So if the area of a circle, that formula for that is pi r squared, so that equals 25 pi, which gives us r squared is 25, so r is 5. Well, the diameter is just doubling the radius, so the diameter is going to be 10. Number 20, in the figures above, if the area of the square region of WXYZ, so that's here, is equal to the area of the triangular region RST, then what is RT? Well, first let's figure out what the area is here. This is a square, and this is 6. That means this is also 6, 6, 6. So 6 times 6, it's going to give us an area of 36. That means the area here is 36. Well, what's the area of a triangle formula? 1/2 base times height. And now we know it equals 36. Let's multiply both sides by 2 to cancel this out. So we have base times height equals 72. And we know the height is 9. So the base times 9 equals 72. Divide everything by 9, and we get B equals 8. Now we're looking at data analysis questions. 21. The total number of visitors from the U.S. to Europe for 1973 and 1974 was most nearly equal to the total number for which of the two following years? So 73, and it's the visitors from the U.S. to Europe. So we're looking at 73 here and 74. And they want a total number that matches those two. I would just look for points that look like they're at about the same values as these two. And it looks like here and here, these are good options because this is about equal to this and this is about equal to that. And so that looks like 76 and 77. And so the answer is A. There were approximately how many million more foreign visitors to the U.S. in 1980 than in 1975? So we want foreign visitors to the U.S., so that's this table, and we're comparing 80 to 75. 80 is 22, and 75 is halfway between 14 and 16, so it's 15, and so that's going to give us 7. Number 23. In 1980, there were 17.1 million foreign visitors to New York City. This was approximately what percent of the total number of foreign visitors to the United States? So we need the total number of foreign visitors to the U.S. in 1980. And again, that's 22 million. So our fraction is going to be 17.1 over 22. Now, some of these percentages here, it's definitely going to be more than 50%, so we can kick these out. 73 and 78% are pretty close, and 88% is not terribly far off. So the best way to do this is to just put in your calculator 17.1 divided by 22, and you're going to get about 78%. 23. How many years after 1971 show an increase over the previous year in both the number of visitors from the U.S. to Europe and the number of foreign visitors to the United States? So if we look at these, one thing I can see right away is the foreign visitors to the U.S. is almost always going up. We have 73 and 74 as the exception here, potentially. So let's look at this one here, the visitors from the U.S. to Europe, and see if we can get a better idea from that. So when is it increasing? Show an increase over the previous year. Okay, so there's an increase from here to here, so that's 1. An increase from here to here, that's 2. An increase from 75 to 76, that's 3. 76 to 77, that's 4, 5, and 6. So we have 6 up here. Now there was the flat line between 73 and 74, but that's a decrease here, so that's not going to take any away from our number 6. And so the answer is B, 6 increases. Number 25. In 1975, if 60% of the foreign visitors to the U.S. were not from Europe, which means 40% were, then the number of European visitors to the U.S. was approximately how many times as great as the number of visitors from the U.S. to Europe that year? So let's figure out how many foreign visitors from Europe came in 1975. In 1975, we're looking at 15 million. And so we do 15 times 0.4, which is going to give us 6. 15 times 4 is 60. We lose 1 decimal point, so we're going to get 6.0, so that's 6. And then we need how many times as great as the number of visitors from the U.S. to Europe in 1975. So U.S. to Europe in 1975, that looks like it's 3. And so we're going to have 6 over 3, which gives us 2. It's double. 26. If y equals 2x minus 1, what is the value of x in terms of y? These in terms of questions are just asking you to rearrange an equation. So what is the value of x? They just want us to isolate x. So first we'll add plus 1 to both sides. We get y plus 1 equals 2x. Now we're just going to divide everything by 2. Y plus 1 over 2 equals x. Now it's possible to write this 2 different ways, because if we look here, C is the answer, because we can rewrite this as y over 2 plus 1 over 2 equals x. Number 27. In the figure above, what is the area of the shaded region? One thing, when you see shapes like this that kind of look like a flag and they're coming down here, this is really just one triangle minus another. So we have the white triangle, the smaller one here, and then we have a larger triangle where part of it's shaded. But if we were to just bring it over here, it has a base of 2 and a height of 2. So we could get the area of this triangle, which is 1/2 base times height. Base times height is 4, so 1/2 of that is 2, and then do the same here. 1/2 base times height, where the base is 1 and the base is 2 and the height is 1. So that's going to give us an area of 1. And so then what's the area of the shaded region? 2 minus 1 equals 1. But there's another shortcut here, looking at 1/2 base times height for these two. They have the same base. They're both being multiplied by 1/2, but the height here is 1/2 the other one. And so we know that it's going to be half the height there. So we could use that shortcut, or we could just calculate the areas and subtract. Number 28. If n equals 15 times 28 times 26, this looks like a primes question. Which of the following is not an integer? And then we have n over 15, n over 21, 32, 35, 39. So they're basically asking us, when we divide this number here by 15, 21, 32, 35, and 39, which one doesn't give us an integer? And this is going to be a question of primes. So 15 is 3 times 5. And so the primes for 28, let's do that quickly, 2, 14, 2, and 7. So that's times 2 squared times 7. And then we have 26, and so for that we do 2 and 13. So times 2 times 13. And so let's clean this up. And then we have, so 2 squared times 2, so 2 cubed, times 3 times 5 times 7 times 13. So these are all the factors that we have in here. So which of the following is not an integer? Can we divide by 15? Well, that's 3 times 5, so yes, we can. Can we divide by 21? Well, that's 3 times 7, yes, we can. Can we divide by 32? Is there a way to get 32 here? Well, we have 2 cubed is 8, and so we don't have enough powers of 2 here. But we can check these other ones. 35 is 5 times 7. Yeah, we have a 5 and we have a 7. And then 39 is 13 times 3. We have a 3 and a 13. So again, the only one we can't make is 32 because we only have 2 to the 3rd power, which gives us 8. We would need 2 to the 5th power as part of our prime factorization for C to work. Number 29. How many positive integers less than 20 are equal to the sum of a positive multiple of 3 and a positive multiple of 4? So the integers that are less than 20 and positive, we have 1 through 19. And they're the sum of positive multiples of 3 and positive multiples of 4. Let's write out the multiples of 3. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And the multiples of 4, we have 4, 8, 12, 16. So let's try these out. 3 plus 4 gives us 7, so that works. 3 plus 8 gives us 11, that works. 3 plus 12 gives us 15, that works. 3 plus 16 is 19, that works. 6 plus 4 is 10, that works. 6 plus 8 is 14, that works. 6 plus 12 is 18, that works. 6 plus 16 is 22, that's too large. 9 plus 4 is 13, that works. 9 plus 8 is 17, that works. 9 plus 12 is 21, that's too large. 12 plus 4 is 16, that works. 12 plus 8 is 20, that's too large. 15 plus 4 is 19, that works, but it's already on our list. And then if we go any higher, that's not going to work. And so now we just count these up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10 integers that meet that criteria. Number 30. 2 tanks, X and Y, are filled to capacity with jet fuel. Tank X holds 600 gallons more than tank Y. Let's take these words and turn them into an equation here. So tank X holds 600 gallons more, so that's 600 plus tank Y. If 100 gallons of fuel were to be pumped from each tank, so how would we represent that? We do X minus 100, so that's tank X losing 100 gallons, and the same thing with Y minus 100, that's tank Y losing 100 gallons. If 100 gallons of fuel were to be pumped from each tank, tank X would then contain 3 times as much fuel as tank Y. So tank X would contain 3 times as much as tank Y. what is the total number of gallons of fuel in the two tanks? The two tanks together is going to be x plus y. So we need to figure out what x and y are, and then we can combine them. So let's simplify this equation we have here. We have x minus 100 equals 3. We're going to distribute this out, 3y minus 300. And so let's add 100 to both sides. So we're going to have x equals 3y minus 200. And then we will substitute in, if x equals 600 plus y, we can replace this x with 600 plus y. So rewriting the equation, 600 plus y equals 3y minus 200. And now we're just going to simplify. So let's subtract y from both sides. We get 2y over here. Let's add 200 to both sides. And so we get 800 equals 2y. Divide both by 2 and we get 400 equals y. Now we know what y is. It's 400. We need to figure out what x is. Well, if we put in 400 here, we get x is 1000. And so 1000 plus 400 is going to give us 1400. And the answer is A.